Welcome to How to Be a Humane Leader Without Losing Your Job. We're here to chat about humane leadership in a way that's real and relatable, tackling work-life challenges and offering practical advice to navigate tough decisions. Whether you're leading a team or navigating your own career, we got you covered. I'm Roberto Torres, a startup engineering leader, and with me is Chris Olerkin, a Fortune 100 IT. We'll dive into the real world stuff, share experiences, and offer guidance on leading with compassion while keeping your career on track. Today, we will discuss how recognition is a cornerstone of humane leadership. Hi, Chris. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Roberto. I'm doing great. I hope you're doing well.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Thank you very much. And well, let me tell you that a few weeks ago, a friend of mine told me about his journey in the company he's working for. And he told me that when he spoke with his boss only gives him taps in the back end. "Ah, okay, you did a good job." But when someone from headquarters approach him and say, "Hey man, you're doing an excellent job. You have solved us a lot of problems. Thank you very much." That recognition boosts him. That recognition made him great, and he felt awesome. So recognition, it is actually a cornerstone of humane leadership. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. I will agree with you on that. And, sometimes, humane leadership certainly has a lot of different aspects that we can debate, but recognition is, I think, everyone can agree. And in any kind of leadership style, recognition is very important. And it can take a lot of different, let's call them degrees of recognition, right? There is the boss, the local boss there gives a little small tap on the back, pat on the shoulder, a handshake. Thanks for your work today. Yeah, that's good. Let's call that, level one. That's the very beginning, the very basic things that people need. But, as your example, of like, well, hold it, some of the other leadership that's farther up in the business, they see that this person is doing a really outstanding job, above average, and they want to acknowledge it and say something about it. That really makes that employee feel a part of the team, right? And we've talked about this before. How do you get that teamwork going? How do you get a sense of responsibility towards the whole team? Well, recognition is a key way to make that start to happen. And you've got to be careful. You can't do it falsely, meaning don't make a big deal out of something that's small, because then, the person can see that, well, all I did was move this server to this server, which was a very basic task. And boy, this corporate leader's like, "Oh, that was amazing." Well, now I don't actually feel recognized, because that's lame, right? That's insincere recognition. And that's the worst thing that somebody can do, right? Because it actually backfires. And then now I don't really trust your opinion on what is good work, because that was insincere and kind of lame.
Yeah.
So, taking that time and saying, "Hey, Roberto, hold on one second. Stop working for a second. You're busy, I know, but hold on. I just wanted to thank you, because, yesterday we were working through that problem, and I had been thinking about it for a week, and you were really able to give me a different perspective on it and help me get that finished. So I just, I really appreciate it. So I know you're busy. I'll get going, but I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks for helping me with that."
Yeah.
That's recognition, right? That's something that the employee feels, wow, yeah, I'm busy. They took a moment out of their busy time also and talked to me, and I feel good about that. So that's the next level up, right, of recognition, is taking that to make it sincere. Take that
Yeah,
moment.
indeed. And one thing is that when recognition comes unexpected times, it is a more joyful occasion. You feel much greater, and you feel that you didn't expect it. And when you either read it because it could be in an email or a Slack or tool or whatever, or to be heard because your leader is telling you that could be either also in front of you, but also in front of a bunch of people. You will feel awesome. You will feel totally boosted, and that is a sensation that everybody you have felt it. I have felt it before, and it's totally amazing because yes, we are when we're working at a company, we're receiving our paycheck every couple of weeks. And yes, that is something related to the work that we are doing. But when your leader approaches you and genuinely says from their heart, "Hey man, you did an amazing work. Hey, thank you very much." That is something that cannot challenge anything. That is a true bond between your leader and yourself because you did something great. Maybe you fix a problem, maybe you give a new solution, maybe you did something that was unexpected. But you had that recognition as you mentioned before we begin recording this episode. Yes, recognition is a cornerstone or humane leadership. And when you begin using that kind of tools wisely, not sprightly, when you know and you recognize someone, you bring in the best of that team member as well as the other team members who are listening, who are watching and say, "Oh, Chris is giving recognition to this guy, to this girl." Oh, so when I do things correctly, Chris probably is going to do it to myself. And that is something that makes us grow at the end.
Yeah, and it actually can help you performance coach others, right? So instead of saying, Roberto, follow what I do, now you know that I have complimented Steve, and Roberto says, I should do things like Steve. I'm going to observe Steve. And you didn't have to tell Roberto, observe Steve. You complimented and rewarded and recognized Steve. Now Roberto says, I want recognition too. Look at how Steve's doing stuff, how Steve is thinking about stuff. I'll do some things like Steve. And one other thing I thought of too was, timeliness is important with recognition. Because if you wait too long, all right, and this is an unfortunate part. I experienced it in my own leadership skills where I failed in my recognition, is that I waited a little too long, and then that employee also did something wrong, right? Did something I needed to correct. So now I don't like the compliment sandwich thing where you give them compliment them, then tell them they did something wrong, and then put another compliment on top of it with the making the sandwich. I would prefer recognition to be all compliment, no corrective discussions, no negative in there that you're sandwiching between two good things. So if you make your recognition timely, there isn't some aspect that you may feel as a leader you also need to correct. Recognition should be only positive, no sandwich of good news, bad news, good news. You want it all positive thing. So do it timely before something else can go wrong. Because sometimes if you're like, well, I'm going to wait till our monthly meeting to recognize Roberto. But in the meantime, Roberto, I don't know, does something wrong in the next week. And now it doesn't feel as good because I also got to correct Roberto on something and tell him how great he did something 3 weeks ago, but don't do what you did last week. That doesn't work. That's no good.
Yeah. Yeah. I will go with sports analogy. You don't have to wait until the end of the game when you're a coach to tell your player that the play that you did was amazing. That's why let's say, for instance, we're a couple of weeks ago from the NFL. When you score a touchdown, when you deflect a pass, when you have a sack or whatever you do, and you go to the bench, there are many people, there are teammates who high fives, say, yeah, man. And the coach who approaches you directly, because there are many players, and goes directly to you. Hey, man, you did an amazing job. You stopped the other team. You did this. Those encouragement words at that time, as you mentioned, timely, are as important as the recognition it is, as also as the play that it happened, because you did it. So it is a tool that has to be wisely used. But I would go with not the negative stuff about recognition, the bad the bad use of not timely recognition, as you mentioned. When you say empty words, when you say, okay, what I will do is every Thursday at 1 p.m. I'm going to do recognitions. Well, that doesn't bring anything positive, because people are going to say, okay, is today's weekly recognition? No, I don't say that I have seen or I have heard something like this, but recognition has to come from here, from recognizing hard data, hard facts from your mind, but providing recognition is from your heart. It has to be warm, it has to be true, it has to be uh, true as it is. And when you convey that message, it is a more powerful message. That's something that it could be like written in a script.
Yeah, you can actually do recognition wrong, and I have seen recognition go wrong. So you mentioned, it needs to be objective, it needs to be measurable, and where I've seen it go wrong is, to your point, scheduled. Like, hey, it's the quarterly town hall or something like that, and they have recognition, and so we're going to recognize Steve for the great job he did on Project Z, and everyone looks around the room and said, well, Steve didn't do diddly squat on that, and Steve actually almost made it fail, and it was Mary who did all the heavy lifting, and she's not getting anything. So here your recognition is completely backfiring because you weren't close enough to the project to, know and know what all the other people know around it, is that it was really Mary. And now you're recognizing the wrong person. And that can backfire on you, because now it deflates all the other recognition that you may do in one-to-ones, in the that brief recognition in the hallway. Hey, great job on that sale you closed last week, Roberto. It really helped make the quarterly numbers. That was a big one. Yeah, but I saw how you at the quarterly town hall, you're giving recognition to people that don't deserve it. So, does this little hallway interaction really mean anything? You probably don't know what you're talking about. So, you have to make sure, certainly when you're doing big recognitions in front of a large group, you have got to reconfirm and reconfirm and reconfirm and be objective that the recognition you're giving is to the right person, the right team, and is the right kind of value. Because if the word on the street is, yeah, that team got their recognition, Lord knows it was this other team or this other person who really did all the hard work, and they're just not getting any recognition, then all of your recognition gets diffused as a humane leader. And I saw that, unfortunately, a lot, because in big companies, a lot of the recognition is political. It's who did you talk to? Who did you tell? Well, I got that done. Yeah, but you didn't really get it done. It was this other group. And just because you had a real good reputation with the VP, you got the recognition. And that demotivates all the other teams, because they're like, well, that's not accurate recognition.
Yeah, actually, when you mentioned political, I remember something that happened to me. Last week, I spoke that I work at a bank, and I was going. We used to work at this big building, many stories in that building, and I was taking the elevator to be at a big meeting, and I heard one manager talking to their director, and the director say, "Okay, are you ready with this? Yes, I'm going to present it, and I'm going to recognize my team because we did this." And the director said, "No, you do not have to do that. You had to say that you lead that, and you had to mention the team." And this guy was kind of, "Really? Do I have to do this?" "Yes." And this guy pushed him. Well, we all got into the floor that was going to be the meeting, and I sat alone next, excuse me, to the team who was part of this guy's the team. And when he began talking about this, and he gave the recognition to himself rather than to his team stood up and got away from the meeting room because they felt betrayed. And I think that we have spoken that recognition, it is a cornerstone of humane leadership, but it has to be, you don't have to take away recognition from someone else because it will backfire you, and it will be a betrayal of your team, of yourself to your team. So don't do that. That is the bad practices that not a humane leader has to do.
Yeah, bad recognition can be a large demotivator to many people and even beyond your own team. Especially, like, as I was mentioning in a larger company, the reality is the coworkers, even though they may not be on the same team, they all know each other and they know who's working hard, who's not, who's a slacker, who's a top performer. Who do you go to when you really need help from another team? Do you go to Steve or do you go to Mary? Well, Steve is just bucking to try and get promoted all the time. Mary actually wants to help you be successful. So you go to Mary, yet Mary didn't get any recognition. So that can really start to demotivate a much larger group of people than you realize. So the humane leader's got to be really sure when you're doing certainly those big recognitions in front of a group like you're mentioning. You get that wrong, the damage can take a really long time to repair because you're just blowing your credibility. And the hard part is, right, is you may not realize how much further the damage is going because as you lose that credibility as a humane leader, people are going to be reluctant to come to you and actually tell you what's going on. They will be reluctant to tell you that really Mary is the one who saved that project and not Steve. Well, if they don't trust you because you give inaccurate recognition and stuff, they're going to be like, I don't think I'm going to stick my neck out and actually defend Mary because clearly this place, they don't really know what's going on. So
Yeah,
it's important to be accurate and really have a good feel for what's going on.
yeah, because when you're doing a selective recognition, only choosing to whom you're going to and to whom you're not going to, you're not doing a leadership style that is going to make this team better. And right now, someone might do it thinking that it is good for him or her, but at the future, those people who didn't have or who didn't have this recognition upon them, maybe they will become your leaders or your bosses, and they're going to take away this, no? So try not to.
Absolutely. And I think my last point about, good recognition is it needs to Died. My fault. Well, hopefully you got some of my stuff about recognition value. It needs to scale to the value you brought and explain your recognition, right? Hey, you completed the job on time. That's good to recognize, but doesn't mean it's worth a big cash reward. Hey, you closed the top sale for the whole year and it brought more revenue to the company. That needs to be a much bigger recognition and potentially have monetary value. $1,000 Home Depot gift card would really motivate me.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. Everybody has different meanings of recognition as a leader and someone who is receiving. But I will tell you something that I cherish a lot. I give you the recognition of being a human leader to me. Since we have done this podcast, I have learned a lot from you. I have applied those lessons that you have given me, those pointers to myself and my team, and I recognize you as a human leader to myself. So thank you, man.
Thank you very much. And we'll use it as a humane leading example. I should not, at this moment, return that because it will seem a bit hollow. I feel the same, but I will hold that recognition back and wait for an appropriate time when you say something insightful, and I will, in that moment, bring that same kind of thing up. So as a humane leader, you got to remember sometimes being a humane leader or a humane team member, accept that compliment. Thank you, Roberto. That means a lot to me. It makes me feel good. I'm glad we've become such good friends. That's how a humane leader recognizes it and doesn't dilute it by turning around and say, well, I feel the same about you, Roberto. That rings hollow, right? So think about those things as a humane leader. You may want to say that, and you may think that that sounds good, but it won't carry the same weight. So I will pay attention to as Roberto gives me pearls of wisdom and make sure that I recognize his contributions, because this is a podcast of two leaders, two
Yeah,
equals. I'm just a little older, so
but just a little bit.
or a lot older. But anyways,
6 years, man, but that doesn't. Well, thanks a lot, man. I have learned something new. So thank you very much. I will apply.
very good. It's great talking to you as usual. We'll see you next week, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.